Last month, we looked at the aftermath of divorce and the impact it has on those involved. Tonight, we speak to individuals who silently bore the brunt of their parents' separation and divorce, the pain and the lessons learned as a result of that experience. We leave you now with that discussion. We're here to have a very important conversation and discussion, one that is impacting several families across this country. Let me introduce my guest really quickly. From the far left is Jackie Kea. She is a stepmom and life coach. She runs the Blended Family Network, which supports individuals in step families. Next to her is Abner Ongeri, and he, of course, is going to share his experience. His parents had split up some years back, and he'll be talking about just the impact that had on his life. And last but not least is Brian Osoro, also in the same boat, but a DJ by profession. Let me begin with you, Brian. In terms of when your parents had decided that they could no longer stay together and were pursuing a divorce, what kind of impact did that have on you?
Apparently, they never planned it. It happened all of a sudden.
It just happened. You didn't see it coming.
I was in school.
Okay.
When I come back, then everything was upside down. Yeah.
You know, when you're growing up, your expectation is mom and dad would be together.
Yeah.
And that ceased, that stopped. So what was going through your mind in terms of what is life going to be like?
I dreamt of the movie that my mom and dad will be forever.
Yeah, yeah.
But now, things happened. And it was hard. My dad was a drunkard, but not that violent. But sometimes it was very hard handling him when he's drunk. So they argued and a fight erupted.
So that took a toll, and I can see, you know, even now, you are the oldest of your siblings, and oftentimes the pressure on you having to hold it together for them is quite heavy. So how did you kind of get through that process and also trying to walk your siblings through it as well?
I was young. I was very young. Not strong enough to hold everything that is going on.
Yeah.
I used to cry. I think my mom was the best part of it all. She was always there. Even though it was hard for her, but for me she was like, Brian, be strong. Your brother is looking up to you. Your sister is looking up to you. So I tried as much as I could. She talked to me. Then I had a teacher, a counselor. He was like a father figure to me.
Yeah.
While my dad was a beast, her dad appeared to me. She doesn't know my mom. She doesn't know everybody in my family, but she was ever there. Then she took me to a journey, and then I had to accept everything. I became strong. Though not that strong.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand any fight or argument.
Wow. So it really went deep, that any confrontation you just didn't want to be around.
Yeah, actually it got to a point where that I couldn't go to the staff room when there's maybe an argument with the teacher. I couldn't.
Wow. You know, it's amazing that you got that kind of support. It's a miracle, really, at school.
Yeah.
You know, and then having a teacher seeing that, oh, there's a gap there with Brian, let me see if I can step in. But let me come to you, Abner, and just kind of talk about your situation as well. How long ago was it?
Okay, mine was different from what Brian has said. For me, I saw it coming. And actually for us, it was an abusive marriage. But the problem is my mom was not ready to let it go. She was not ready to give up. She's that kind of a woman who those women who go to church, you know, they trust in God, they believe in God. And in our church, actually, most of marriages, they tend like they say it has to work. So it was kind of hard for her. And when I saw that, I was not really, I was like, oh my God, I'm just waiting for that day, for that one day when I wake up and then all these things will be my past.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you actually were, not saying you're looking forward to, but you saw the pressure that it was putting on your mom.
Yeah. She was actually on and off the hospital. Like this week she's admitted, the other week she goes home, the other week and again she's back. So she was on and off the hospital. So
the pressure on you guys seeing, and I mean your siblings, seeing your parents going through such a strain, what toll did that take on you?
Actually, for my siblings, I think that time they were kids. And you know, it's not easy to make a kid understand that what's happening here. It's actually there will be maybe my mom and dad are fighting in the bedroom, but for them they're busy watching cartoon. But for me, because I was old enough to know this is wrong, I was the one who was actually affected. But when we moved out now, when there was that separation, it was very hard actually to explain to these kids that, you know, mom and dad are not together anymore. And then they will persist and they'll be like, you know, we want to meet our dad. And it's very hard, because for me, when it happened, actually I switched. I went to the village for like 6 months. I stayed there until when I was at least calm, and then I came back.
So you left just to get away from the situation?
Yeah. I went to stay with my grandmother.
Wow. You know, Jackie, as you're listening to both their stories, it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
You know, because you can replicate this across many homes in Kenya, and it's not easy to talk about. You deal a lot with families that have undergone a divorce. How would you advise parents who are thinking about separating and how they should really kind of prepare their kids? I mean, there's no easy way of preparing your children for something like this.
Unfortunately, by the time a couple gets to the point of divorce, it's at a point that even the communication breakdown is there's communication breakdown between the two. So the communication between them is filled with so much animosity. However, the ideal way to do it is to talk about it and agree that we may not be able to live together. And after doing that, the ideal situation again is to talk to the kids, especially if you have kids who are bigger. And we can talk to the kids and tell them mom and dad are not able to live together. However, most of us parents, when our kids are bigger, we divorce when they're in school. And because maybe he is in high school, we actually think, okay, he's a big boy, he can take care of him, he can understand. So we don't know the journey that also this big boy or big girl also undergoes through a journey. However, when we as parents communicate to the kids about it at the same time, it also gives the kids a clear indication and a clear picture of what is happening. Yes, they'll be sad, but there'll be no wars and fighting between each other. No parent, one parent will not be bad-mouthing another parent that, you know, I left because your mother is ABCD, or the other saying the same about the spouse. So when they have this communication at the same time with the kids, it's a better preparation. Though we are saying no amount of preparation will take away the pain, but the healing journey becomes easier for both the kids and the couple.
And you know, how do you counsel kids who have, you know, for instance, in Abner's case, it's a tumultuous situation. There's a lot of strife in the household. They've witnessed maybe one of the parents being abused physically. How do you counsel them through that? Because even though they're out of it physically because of the divorce, and maybe one of the parents has custody, the thoughts, you know, have kind of set in, and they start to maybe even build negative feelings towards one of the other parents. How do you kind of counsel them through that?
when we are brought up in a family where there's strife, it leaves some scars in us, and the scars may not be manifested immediately. The scars will be manifested in our adulthood, in our relationships, if we do not sort it out. So during the counseling process, I will take you through a process to understand the cost and the pain of being in the family that you are in.
Yeah.
When you understand the pain and the cost of the things that happened in that family, and in the bad of us there's good. So from this also, you will also be able to understand and embrace the lessons and the good that also came from it.
Right.
Because even in those situations, there's some resilience that maybe Urbaners has that other people do not have. So there's also the benefit and there's the pain that comes with it.
Yeah.
So in the process of counseling, we also need to know how this pain is manifesting or is affecting your behavior,
right,
in the way you relate to other people.
Right.
And now that you're conscious and aware about why you're behaving the way you're behaving, why you really do not want to even see people fighting, why you just don't want to see conflict, you understand why it's happening to you. The next process is, how do we minimize the negative effect that came up with growing in the type of family that you did, so that it doesn't affect the life that you are going to create.
Right.
Yes.
And we'll be talking about even when you move into the territory of step parents, because that happens. One parent moves on, gets married, and starts another family. But let me come back to you, Brian. Just in terms of, would you say that you've gotten over the divorce of your parents, that you found some closure, you've healed through it, or it's still a pain point for you even now?
At some point, I've tried to get over it, like not totally, but maybe a certain percentage. But I can't stand like an argument between a lady and a guy in every situation, but I can't stand it. Like, I feel like it's my mom being abused. I feel like it's the same way I was hit the other time, it's gonna be the same again. So I can't say I've gotten over it that much, but I've tried. At least I can handle my anger, even if it's very hard, but I can.
Yeah, have you gone for counseling at all?
Yeah, I tried, and it worked out. After everything happened, I went to my aunt's place. I stayed there for like 2 years, then I came back to school. So when I came back to school, I found a certain group. So I could speak at least to them. I have an issue. It was like you're telling them a movie they've never experienced, but now I have to explain everything like in details. So after that, I got the courage, like, if I can speak it out, I can let it go. Mr. Steven, the teacher who was always there like a father, told me this issue happens, and if it happens, you don't have to maybe hold the grudge. Maybe actually up to now we don't speak to each other with my dad, my stepsisters and brothers.
So you have step siblings now?
Around 4 of them.
Wow. And you don't interact with them at all?
I'm willing to, but they're not willing to.
Okay. So there's a bit of a strain there.
Yeah.
Wow. So hopefully, if they can get in touch with Jackie, because Jackie specializes in that area, because you still need to be able to interact and not cut off that relationship completely. Abner, for you, because I saw you shaking your head, or nodding your head rather, when Brian was talking about him talking to his friends about his experience and them wondering they've never heard of anything like that. And did you find any of your friends, anyone in your circles or networks who had been through the same thing, or were you really the only one?
Actually, actually, I can even say that there is something that happened last week when there is a place where I do internship, and there is we were in a round table discussing about what happened before. Well, it's a healing process, and we were discussing, and there is this guy who has never experienced something like that, and then he was hard on me. Actually, I was like, okay, may just God forgive you because you have never passed through this. You don't know how hard it is, and yeah, others have not experienced it, and others actually think it's very easy to get through this process.
Yes.
Actually, this process can take years. If you get the right people, well, it can heal faster, but if you don't get the right people, well, it can affect you.
You know, I wonder, is there a stigma attached, you know, when people know you came from a divorced home?
Yeah, there is. There is. Actually, others don't want to be associated with you. Actually, even in we're talking about actually, I can say about when I'm talking about church side, actually others even don't want to sit with you because they are like, you know, in our church there is like you profile marriage as if it's something that has to work, and it works. Well, some people it works for them, but others it doesn't work for them, and you know, it affects. People should understand that these things do happen, and they should actually embrace embrace others who are passing through this.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, but Jackie, I mean, when you're talking about, and now you've seen there's a case with Brian, there's a whole nother family, and maybe the kids do desire to have a relationship with the parent who's moved on, but there's circumstances that is preventing that from happening. How do you begin to reconcile the two sides? That oftentimes, you know, maybe there's unforgiveness, there's anger, there's many things in the way.
Yeah. In the reconciliation, especially as the bigger people, the parents, I think after the divorce, and maybe because of the animosity and the conflict that divorce comes with, it's understandable that couples who are divorced may have very high conflict. But with time, if you do your work to heal individually, wherever you are, I think they need to find the common ground of how to speak. Because yes, they might not be husband and wife, but they're parents. Romantic love can end, but parental love shouldn't, ideally. So in the line of the parental love, that even as kids and as human beings, we innately just crave for it. Even those parents that have treated us badly, or the parents that have done things that have hurt us, there's the innate part in us that will never hate them completely. We still love them. So I think as parents, we need to be totally purposeful and aware that our parental love is quite important to our kids. Though there may be conflict because of the relationship bond and it has crumbled, the parental bond needs to be stabilized so that our kids are not carrying a lot of baggage and a lot of burden from the decisions that we made. And when kids who still have a relationship with their parents even after divorce actually cope better than kids who actually still have conflict with their parents. And I think, just to add to that, things that make divorce quite difficult and challenging is continuous conflict between the two parents. That even years later, they're not living together, but kids still feel like they're still at the war that these two still had. So when these two parents who have divorced still have a lot of animosity towards each other, still have a lot of conflict towards each other, and at times we want our kids to be on our side because now they're big enough. And anytime I talk to him, I tell him, guess what your dad did? Blah, 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 blah. So emotional baggage that kids keep carrying because we are looking for company. Also makes kids not to, it makes them not to heal.
True,
Yeah.
true. And I have to ask this as we wrap up, Brian. Has this experience kind of changed your view on marriage at all? Or would you eventually want to settle down and have a family?
For me, it's hard. Personally, it's hard. Love. Love is another story. So you have to build it. It has to start from my family.
Yeah.
The wars we had made me believe like maybe we are just here to stay. We have to try this. But at long last, I have to get married. That's one thing I have to. But the same experience won't happen to my wife. To my kids, they will live the life that I never had. There was never. It's not part of me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that cycle ends with you.
Yeah.
You start a new chapter.
Yeah, that's another generation for. They have to see the things that I never saw.
Yeah.
Maybe the wars that were in my house. In my house, there will be peace. Like we want to live the life like a movie. It's a movie, but reality. In a movie, there's no scene.
A movie with a good ending.
Yeah.
At least.
Oh, yes.
If it has to end, it ends on me.
Yeah.
And I believe in love at times, but now it made me doubt love at
And understandably so. But it's amazing that you can still think it's up to me to decide whether I have a good family and a positive marriage moving forward. Abner, a word of encouragement you'd give to a kid whose parents probably just divorced, or one whose parents divorced many years ago but still cannot come to terms with that and trying to figure out their identity. What would you tell them?
What I would like to tell them, first of all, it's like you have to forgive. Maybe let's say, for example, these are there was chaos everywhere, like in the house. There was abusive marriage. You have to forgive. If it's your father or if it's your mother who was on the wrong side, you have actually to forgive them. And actually, when you forgive them, you let it go. And when you let it go, now you can start focusing on building yourself and actually not to let it both of you. Well, I know it's going to be a long process, but people like Jackie are here to help you. Yeah.
Amazing. And Jackie, the last word, because whenever we talk about divorce, there's such fear when you're thinking about that process, because it's so acrimonious in most cases. But how do you kind of encourage parents and families who are probably facing it? They can't turn back because they've probably tried everything else. What do you tell them in terms of trying to get through it and get out of it in one piece and not in pieces?
Yeah. I think it doesn't have to be very acrimonious. That divorce can happen in situations where people have talked about it. People have agreed that, okay, it's not working and we are hurting each other. And make sure also that you have tried and tried. Because I don't think we are here to say that people should divorce. Because divorce on its own, even the one that people talk about and agree on, is still painful. No matter how you separate or divorce, it is still a very painful process. So if you have to, I think it doesn't have to be very acrimonious. And get support. Get support in this journey. Remember your kids. I always say, love your children more than you hate your ex. If you hate your ex so much, you will still use your children to get back at him. True. So love your kids so much, more than you hate the man you're going to divorce, or the man that you divorced, or the woman that you divorced.
Right.
So if you love your kids more than you hate your ex, you will be able to support them in their journey. And you will also be responsible by taking your own journey, which means heal.
Right.
Go through the healing process so that you are a better person and you will be a better parent. And at the end of the day, you will live a fulfilling life. But you have to take the journey, and the process is not also easy. of healing after divorce.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jackie, Abner, and Brian, for sharing. Not easy, but I really commend you for your bravery, and hopefully someone is liberated as a result of you sharing your stories. Thanks for watching. Keep the conversation going on social media, #CitizenWeekend. Have a lovely evening, and let's do this again next week. Good night.